considering how good Sonic's is. But you know what? Ken does show up to these things and does quite well in his own right. We will just have to see if maybe Ken can put a dent in that conversation. Certainly, we'll have to do so at the expense of Mark, the red Yoshi. Oh man, another red Yoshi in Japan. Here we go. This one playing Ultimate, obviously Red Yoshi making their making its presence known in the world of Melee through none other than Amza. But you know what, Mark holding it down for the Red Dinosaurs in Ultimate as we get going with Hollow Bastion. And again, just establishing the neutral play, and it's Ken who's going to be winning 90% of these interactions, as you might expect, but it makes spacing all the more important for the Yoshi here. Spin dash. And again, the play off stage, it's so vitally important for Yoshi to be able to recover well. It's so much more important now that you're dealing with an absolute speed demon, a demon of movement in Sonic. Red versus blue, you need to be able to hit those eggs if you want to disrupt Ken's movement. Ken will not respect the neutral space otherwise. Good damage brought on by the down air. Whatever you can do to leverage the situation is something that, well, really, Mark is going to have no choice but to do. Continuing on. And again, just trying their best to establish the neutral in this particular matchup. It's ever so difficult. But one way or another, you find your way through. Ken is going to draw first blood here. And it's, again, so difficult for Mark to try to establish anything. Your best tool is going to be one that you have to hit with absolute precision. Those up B eggs. And when you're Ken, you're able to time your approaches back to stage so effectively. You're making Mark, fight with invisible swordsmen more or less. Back airs, and you're going to force Mark into a jump as you do. Relatively risk-free, but charging that spin dash just a little bit too long. Ken trying to see exactly how much damage you can get in terms of extra credit. The answer will be 66 before Mark connects with the back air and takes stock number 1. Continuing forth now, spin dashes. Closing down space. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where it's going to be a defensive game no matter what. A platform fighter of any variety, whether it's Ultimate or Melee or what have you. But when you're able to utilize your speed, it's not just about being able to rush in, it's about the threat of rushing in. So you can just sit there, spin dash, and your opponent just kind of has to accept that you're the one in control of the interaction. And this is the biggest thing that Sonic players utilize, especially at this top level. As we mentioned, people like Sonics, excuse me, with the X, and Ken, and even Wrath, who we saw earlier on this very channel, over at oh, wait a second, Ichigo-kan. Well, let's not talk anymore about Sonic. Mark stealing a stock there, beautifully placed with the footstool, and Mark is going to take a tentative lead. Whatever you could have done to level the playing field, well, that's something that Mark absolutely had to do. It is going to be Ken that winds up leveling it up yet again. But of course, that just means you're going to need even more of that little extra je ne sais quoi in order to establish that advantage, and whatever advantage you can get with those eggs. Well, you certainly have to take it. Ken is going to acquiesce no such thing, as Mark looking for an opening and not finding it. Well parried by Mark. I mean, again, the biggest weapon that you have is your timing. You get to mix it up almost at will if you are Sonic, the spring catching mark this time. Oh, slow get up as well. Looking for the button, it did not come out in time, and Ken almost administering the coup de grace courtesy of that back air as a result. Sitting at 153, Mark has to rush in. You have no choice, buddy. And yeah, upon on the apex of the jump, just a little too floaty. You're hanging in the middle of the air. What else can Ken do but pick you off? That is going to be a game one victory for the Sonic. Again, the iconoclastic Sonic, who has done so well throughout multiple iterations of the game. Senior ranking member of the team SBI. Did quite well for themselves at the past couple weekly Smash parties, finishing in first place at all of those, including the I believe the last iteration was 203, finishing first there. And there are a few players that wind up challenging him, but has not dropped a set at Smash Party since I believe it was Tamayugo who wound up taking out Ken in one of the losers brackets. That was all the way back at the 200th edition of it. One of the tournaments that Mia attended as we go to small battlefield for game number 2. Once again, folks, this is one of those matches, one of those sets that just you do learn to appreciate the minutia of the gameplay, the interactions. How they talk about neutral as a conversation. Well, sometimes it's a drawn out interview, and indeed that can be the case with Sonic. You learn to appreciate the well, let's say the more subtle aspects of the game. Last hit of down air, however, connects with Ken, excuse me, on behalf of Mark, at Mark's behest, I should say. Back air, up air, connecting. Seen, I've watched too much of 6WX to not expect that up air to KO, but I do remember that being one of the big differences. It's like, wow, you just can't combo into up air out of just anything for that to be the kill.
相手に攻めさせる展開っていうのもそのハースさんも得意とはしていると思うんですけども、この時間の使い方っていうところやはりケン選手素晴らしいですね。
相手の焦りというかもうその行かなきゃいけないっていうなるような意識を多分やっぱり掴むのがうまくて、すごいそうさっきの空語振って意識させてサッカーで横スマを入れたりとか、すごい。
さあ今度はイケイケの立ち上がり、ケン飛び込んできていきなり大火力、す
ごい全部通ってる。
1試合目からそうですが、やはり最初の火力ケンが常に取っています。
こうなったらやっぱソニックの理想の展開ですね。
42%、たかがというパーセントではないです、このマッチアップ。さあ苦しいぞ、滑り横強、先ほどからマークが通していた本当に頼みの綱のようなウェポンなんですが、小戦場の台を使って剣はかわしています。後ろから前を詰めたいが、いい前の詰め方、弱の緩急、しかし暴れの空前、
展開作りたいところでの空中前がかなりそれの抑止になってるんですよね。
そうですね、火力を取りたいっていうその滑り横強以外だとやはり空中から攻めたいヨシにとってのこの先出しの空中攻撃、ソニックの攻撃が非常に刺さっている。これをどうする、仙台一号のチャンスだが高めを狙うためでしたが、はるか遠く、これも剣の防御力が光る。
ここの
パーセントは倍の差、空中しろ、やはりここでもシンプルに
すごいな、空語の
なぜだ、
空語めっちゃ当てますね、本当に。
これ参考になりそうですか、ハツさん。
ちょっとあと10年ぐらい使えばいけるかな。
貫禄が見える剣さあ中央から気持ちのいいように剣の攻撃だけが当たっている。
ダッシュ攻撃がすごいですね、本当に。
地上でもその空中にいるヨッシーも全てに対して足技を見事しっかり当てている。
あれだけ空上とかされたら、空語されたらもうやっぱ地上やるしかなくなってって感じですよね。
さあマーク、本当に集中力を切らしたら勝機が本当になくなってしまう。パワープレイも仕掛けながらではありますが雑にはなれない。
置き攻めもすごい。
さあ空中前当たったぞ。
むずいな、ちょっと今の。
いやーよく取りましたマーク。
揺さぶりがうまかったですね、空中関節使った。
心理戦を本当に得意としている剣ではあるんですが、そこに対して読み合いでマークもなんとかこじ開けなければならない。
さあここの撃墜を
さあ空中した悪くないタイミングでしたけどね、ちょっとコードが合いませんでしたか。いや今のも悪くない空中ニュートラルに見えましたけどね、それでもスピン合わせる。まずいか、反転空中後ろがマークに圧をかける。高め上スマッシュだ、よく反応した。さあしかしやはり空中に時間が長い、なんとかこじ開けたダッシュ攻撃、台の上だったが追いに行く、ドリームあるか。
なんかさっきからすごいいい感じになりそうな展開はあるんですけどね。
本当に良さそうではある。しかし一つ間違えればもちろん撃墜なのはマークのこのパーセント 179%。 ジャストシールドを抜かりなし、後ろ投げまで見据えているが横強も怖い。ラインがなければ当然撃墜の技。さあブレーキ音が聞こえた。卵を見合えてですが、おっと空中下の判断悪くなかったが追いに行く。さあ崖お願いだ。
Am I back?
ここちょっと怖いですね。
おっとしかしえらい横スマッシュ。悪くないぞ。どうだ間に合わない。
Well, I'm not sure how that worked, but it apparently did. And something's also working for Ken, who's going to get that up throw and take the KO. Mark is going to be on last stock. This Yoshi is going to need to do something and fast in order to make this happen. Down tilts? I mean, hey, you just need to be able to get those quick buttons out however you can. And usually when you're fishing for down tilts, it means that you're desperate for something. And at least that's might have just given one of my tendencies there. So pardon me for the projection. But you're going to be able to catch your opposition. If you're getting yourself into a position to shark, then you are generally doing good things. And certainly, Mark, able to take Ken to the absolute limits here, to the last stock. And it's about being able to catch something beyond that in the up tilt. The series of up airs as well. I should say forward tilt. That was a beautiful F tilt to catch Ken off guard. Beautifully spaced as well. There's a well-earned 30 or so ticks of damage. Missing with the back airs. Oh, beautifully bounced with the forward air and the up smash to boot, and Mark survives. That was a victory well earned on the part of Mark. Going to find themselves with a 2-1 deficit, but still, do what you gotta do to win, and off the floor and on the board, Mark finds a way to get the victory. And a comeback victory as well, sitting pretty well down in that game number 3. 2-1 deficit and only piling on the damage. Almost a full stock lead there for Ken. Almost lapping him in terms of damage. But of course, when you have such a decisive numerical advantage, you're going to take advantage of it. And the long ranges of Pokemon Stadium 2 are going to provide a fitting stage for this game number 4. And one that Ken is certainly going to take advantage of. Spin dashing yet again. With the catches, maybe a little soon on the forward air, but at the very least you want to show it. Make Ken question the routes that he's taking in order to get back to the stage. Spin dashes yet again. Beautiful use of the forward air. Mash him into the stage. Up smash as well. Hanging on in terms of damage, but that back air is so powerful. Comes out so quickly. Nair to try to catch an early jump. Will not find the mark, but again, it's a no pun intended. But again, you are showing that Ken is going to have to be judicious with his recovery routes. Up smash is going to take the first stock, excuse me. Second stock overall, but we are at 2 stocks apiece. But it's still Ken with the decisive advantage, and that was always going to be the case in a stage like this, right? You have the large, flat playing area. You just gotta cross the Kansai plain one way or another, and it takes a while to do. Mark is having to do that on foot. It's a lot easier when you're Sonic and the fastest thing alive. Certainly the fastest thing in the game, but nonetheless. The spring. Mark was fooled by that in game number 1. Will not be fooled again. Shield pressure by Mark on the platform. Swinging away yet again is Mark. Ken fighting wonderful pressure, but again, you don't really need to do that. You have the hitboxes. You can place them at will, and Ken is certainly going to do so. Dash away, draw Mark in, and back air. Beautifully done. And yet again, Mark with the back up against the wall. What does this Yoshi have left in the tank? Against one of the best Sonics in the world. A jab reset into F smash. That is a judicious answer, and it could not have come a minute too soon. 1 stock apiece. Less of a deficit that Mark has to make up this time. But Mark seems to be a come-from-behind player. Does quite well with this Yoshi. Has done for quite some time. Finishing first at a couple of these tournaments. Beating players like Yan AP. Has a couple of wins against some pretty good names in his locker. In fact, beating Hurt, who was playing the Sonic, by a score of 2-1 in losers finals of I believe it was Maisuma Hit. But it was Hurt who was definitely picked up the Sonic from somewhere, and I'll give you 3 guesses as to whom one of the inspirations were. That's right, it was Sonic's. Specifically shouted him out. But Ken almost taking it with the back air. Didn't even get the red flash on the screen. Mark at 161. Need to be careful not to get grabbed as well. We saw game number, I think it was 2 finish that way, but it will be the back air that does the job. We get the red flash that time, and it will be Ken with a decisive 3-1 victory. Mark, with a wonderful effort and just barely missing on top 8 winner side. It was not for a lack of skill and not for a lack of fighting spirit. Certainly all credit to Mark for the effort that was put in there. And certainly want to give a little bit of credit to you all watching at home as well. We certainly thank you for bearing with us.